back, Edo. First of all, I would like to thank you very much for having this conversation with me. We're at the European Sustainable Energy Week. You're part of the Indonesian delegation. We are in Brussels, and I can't help but ask you, how come you're here?
Well, EU invited us, so thank you for inviting the Indonesia. We bring a really big government delegation here to share knowledge, to learn from EU, and to meet people. I think we believe that partnership is important in energy transition to fight against the climate change. So we really appreciate that we are brought here, invited to attend this amazing event.
And exchange knowledge, because I'm sure that EU has a lot to learn from the Indonesian delegation too. But I would like first to ask you, what kind of EU experiences on the energy transition did you discuss and learn, let's say, about?
Yeah, we learned a lot. I think what is really important that we learn from the EU approach is really to make sure that we look into this energy transition issue in a multi-dimensional way. It doesn't live in a vacuum. It's really, we have to look into several aspects. We'll have to look at the technicals. We have to look at the policies. We have to look at the financing. We have to look at the just aspects. So these kind of things, this whole, I would say, whole dimensions, multi-sectoral approach that I think that is important. One of the biggest takeaway from here, so that we can, when we design our transition, it'll be in a sequential way, in a well-managed way, well-designed, well-planned, including the whole ecosystem to support the energy transition.
And how does this relate to Indonesia's own energy transition? Could you elaborate a little bit about your work and the Indonesian government's ambitions on this space?
Indonesia is committed to be part of the global community in fighting the climate crisis, and we believe that energy transition is key. Low carbon economy is a secular trend. This is something that will happen, and Indonesia would like to be at the forefront of this. And it is also for Indonesia's own good to ensure our survival and competitiveness, and also to make sure that the world could also survive. So that is the main idea. And for Indonesia, we are very committed. So we are blessed with abundance of clean energy resources. However, we know that the wall to climb to get there is high. Yeah, it's not a really easy, smooth job. So that's why we have to learn from many other countries. But we have initiatives, including with the EU, a really strong commitment partnership in the Just Energy Transition Partnership that was launched during the G20 in Bali.
Yes. I would like to pick on your brain a little bit, because you have a unique perspective. We discuss here in Yusuf also that we are on time, that we can make it for our targets for 2050, etc. But this is a little bit within our European bubble. I wanted to ask you, on a global scale, would you say that we are on time, that we can reach our goals for the energy transition on time?
We may or may not. It depends on how we accelerate. Yeah? And I think it's really important to understand that there is no cookie-cutter solution. There is no silver bullet, and every country has different initial conditions and boundary conditions as well. So in the case of Indonesia and other emerging economies, developing countries, we have to grow. So we have to grow, we have to develop. But we would like to basically break the curse, this very strong relationship between economic growth and emission. So this is where energy transition comes in. So this is where, let's say, those countries that have already developed earlier have to chip in and also share the responsibility and also the experience, what you've been going through, so that it could help the emerging economies to break that relationship. So if we do that, to really make sure that the common but differentiated responsibility in the fight against climate change to be materialized, to be really materialized, then we can achieve that goal. Otherwise, if we basically move backwards, more into less cooperation, more blocks, less partnership, then we may miss the target.
You actually read my mind, because I was thinking that developing countries can be helped a lot from already developed countries. But I would like to stay a little bit on this question and ask you if you have some examples, some specific examples. How can developed countries help emerging, let's say, economies?
So several things. First and foremost, I think there is no short of supply of dry powder in the world. So, but we know that the risk profile for energy transition, especially from renewables and other clean energy resources, the risk profile is still kind of high. So which means the world needs more concessional financing, more blended financing sort of type of scheme, so that number one, we can de-risk the investments. Number two, we can crowd in the commercial, so that we can make the pie bigger. So I think that is the most important. And now number two, I think it's really important to make sure that all developing countries can have their own story of energy transition, because they know, we know what we need. So, and each country is different. So we have to make sure that we follow, we understand, they have their own energy transition path. So give the agency, including also, let's say, the sharing of the technology and knowledge, so that they can accelerate, and we can also be sure that after following the energy transition, we can also have energy security. So it will be an interdependency. We cannot, look backwards and live in a dependent, world, but it's more like interdependency, where it doesn't matter. I think the old adage of this North and South is obsolete. We have to see this more like, a world where interdependence is key, and energy transition is part of that. We have to help each other.
I think that your words will be music to the European Commission and the European Parliament's ears. Pak Edo, thank you very much for this discussion.
Thank you, Bertie. Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for watching this. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to become part of the Enlit community.